Okay, here we go. I'm back. I haven't pressed this record button in a long time. If you go to look at my last video and the date that was uploaded, there's a lot of reasons for that. Business has been challenging. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I want to talk about what has really been going on behind the scenes of my business, of being a brand and web designer and working with Webflow, and the pros, cons, the ups, the downs, and just kind of like what's been happening for me, because I've made a lot of changes lately that I finally feel ready to talk about. And so that's going to be like some things that haven't been working in my business up until this point for probably the last 2 years. And then I want to talk about what is working in my business and some things I've changed and what I've learned from all that. And just be kind of more unfiltered and unscripted in this video. And this isn't going to be a tutorial of something to do in Webflow. We'll get back to those eventually. But I want to talk about the real stuff, because that's what I enjoy hearing from other people, is we are all on this journey together of trying to build businesses that feel meaningful and that we have a passion for, and also make us money so that we can live and enjoy our lives the way that we want it. That's what we're all doing this for. So let's dive into that. We'll start with what hasn't been working. And the first thing is that I was taking in way too much input from podcasts and YouTube videos and friends and other business owners and, people I don't know online that I follow whose work I really like. And just as someone who is chronically online, I love that stuff. Like, I'm such a junkie for personal development and business growth, and like that fuels me. But at some point you got to draw a line of like, okay, we're done taking in information. Now we need to go create something. And I have majorly been in a space of having way more consumption than creation. And it doesn't feel good. I know that's something that many people struggle with. So as far as the kind of input that I was taking, I was at a point in my business where 2020 and 2021 were my best years financially. Not just financially, even the money that I was making, but the work that I was doing. I felt really fulfilled in. I loved the clients I was working with, the work that they themselves were doing. That all just like was ticking every box I wanted, except for in working with a lot of these female entrepreneurs who were building their own businesses. I was helping them launch their courses and really like teach their mission and purpose. And in doing that, it like definitely woke up a part of me that was like, wait, I want to do that too. I've always kind of wanted to do that. And I had got to a point where I felt like I was just making other people's dreams come true. And while that is so lovely and great on the one end, I was like, what about mine? What's the thing that I want to build right now that isn't just for somebody else? What's the legacy that I want to leave? That might be a little bit more serious than it was at the time, but that was kind of where my mindset was at. So in order to do that, I needed to make some changes. I was like, wait, I think I do want to be teaching a bit of what I've learned, and maybe there's a course inside me that I want to create. I didn't know exactly yet. I just knew that that was kind of the direction I wanted to head. So if I wanted to go that route, if I wanted to make time for content and creating some of these things, I knew that I was going to need to take a step back from client work a little bit. I obviously still needed it to fuel my business, but I needed to restructure some things so that I wasn't spending 100% of my time on it. I wasn't so attached to that like hourly rate, so to speak. I wasn't charging hourly, but I think you get what I mean. And so that was when I really started to go look outward at what other people were doing. And there's so much content, there still is, of the like 6-figure salary, 7-figure salary, 30K months, look at what I achieved, look how easy it was, I have so much freedom. And like, clearly people are doing that. That is real. I helped some people do that. But I lost my North Star a little bit from some of that content. And I started kind of getting sucked into the money I could potentially make and, maybe how I would shift my services or what I would do. And I started forgetting why I wanted to do it in the first place. And I was kind of chasing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. And some of that content was really around services. So I'm looking within my industry, obviously, of web design and seeing what other web designers are doing to make all of this money, which felt like it would be a great avenue to then give me the time and the freedom to go pursue the things I really wanted. And so one thing that was really popular was this service called a VIP day, is what a lot of people were calling it, which is basically like condensed timeline for either a brand or a website within a span of a couple of days. And that seems kind of crazy, but if you've been doing this for as long as I have, you get to a point where it's not. You actually can produce that relatively quickly because you've done it enough times and you created systems in your business that is possible. And you can offer it at a rate that is both attractive to the person that is buying it, but also really profitable for the person that is building it because you're only doing it in the span of a couple of days. And I was like, this is perfect. I also love a late night. I love to stay up working and like crank out, a ton of work in a condensed time. Okay, there's a fly. And I went that avenue. So that was one service I added in. And that was really because of all of the input I was taking in and all of the people I saw that were doing it and seemed to be having a lot of success with it. So I was like, great, I'm gonna try this too. Let's see how this goes. Which kind of brings me to point number 2, which is that I spent way too much time building something that I didn't actually have any proof that people wanted from me. Because then the second service I built, because obviously that day rate, that fast pass is what I called it. I didn't call it a VIP day, I called it a fast pass. And it was, a couple of days here, let's get a landing page or a simple website or brand identity. And it did work. And I, for most of them, did enjoy it. But then the second service I created was where things got a little bit wonky, which was, okay, I still need an offer that is going to give a full website, which obviously I'm not doing in a couple of days. That really I wanted to hit this like midpoint with my customer, which was not everyone right now in this economy could afford the $15K brand and website that I had offered to people previously. I wanted something that felt easier and a bit more bite-sized, that like ticked all the boxes they need, but didn't need to be this major investment. And especially because a lot of people were coming to me asking for the same things and needing the same things. And by that point, I had, learned a lot of tools within the Webflow world using things like Reloom or component libraries. Like a lot of changes had been made to Webflow and companies that were coming out that were now making it easier than ever to build faster. So I was like, okay, cool. I think there's something here that there's kind of this like semi-custom offer of, I called it the foundation at the time, of I'm gonna build like a couple of core templates within my own business that really solve the problems for the types of clients that have been coming to me and already have sort of like a predefined structure. But unlike a template, which many other people were selling of like customize your template, that didn't feel right to me. I was like, no, I still want it to feel customized. I still want them to have a lot of control over what we change because templates usually never solved all the answers for me. So I was like, it's just the foundation. We're building like the bones of the house, but then I will come in and customize and not just change colors and fonts, but add new sections or new pages and really tweak it to like fit that person. So it feels like a custom site, but it's really the process and the workload of something that is more templated. And I can offer that now at a more attractive price in a tight timeline of maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. And then I'll have, time in the rest of the month to work on the content and the courses and all of that stuff. And I was really excited about it and I felt good about it. And I spent a lot of time, this is where things got tricky, because while I was building that, I actually took time off from client work completely, where I didn't want that distraction. And I was like, okay, I could probably build this in like 1 or 2 months. I'll take that time off to just work internally on my business, which was really fun and felt nice. I think I was a little burnt out from client work. I needed a bit of a reset anyway. So it all just kind of made sense. I was like, cool, then I'll have this new offer to come out with and it's gonna sell great. And that was like the planning that I had done. And it ended up taking me far longer than I initially thought it would. I built some of these templates and built the sales page, redid my branding, kind of reworked all the services, and I was excited about it and launched them. And it just didn't go the way that I thought it would. I sold some of them, but the foundation itself as a service still never felt quite right for someone. My biggest mistake in this was I created a sales page and copy and a service that benefited me and my process and was not speaking to my client and the outcome that they ultimately wanted. They don't really care if I'm using tools like Reloom or component libraries or templates internally in my business. They just wanted a custom site that they loved, that worked for their business, that they felt good about. Like how I did it, it was kind of irrelevant. And I spent too much time focusing on the how and feeling like that was the unique selling point of this service, which it wasn't. So I was a bit too close to it. This is like advice that when I say even out loud right now in this video, I'm like, well, yeah, duh, that's not how you write a sales page. It's so easy to do it for someone else. When you're doing it for yourself, you can get a little lost in it. So that offer just did not sell a bunch. And I found myself having to essentially just create custom proposals for people anyway that were still coming to me and needing sites. And, I was kind of fitting them into that price point, but ultimately things just were not really panning out the way that I'd hoped. I didn't really end up using any of those internal templates that I built because I was just kind of building stuff more custom to fit what people wanted. And as much as I thought I could guess, you can't sometimes. Which leads me to mistake number 3, which was that I hung on way too long. I hung on way too long to this service that I could tell wasn't working, and not just wasn't clicking with other people, but I wasn't clicking with it either. I really struggled to explain this idea in a concise, clear manner. I wasn't wanting to show up on social media to talk about it because something just felt off. And my ego was so wrapped up in building this offer, not just my ego, but my time and my resources and my money. And I couldn't admit the idea that maybe I failed at this one. So I held on far longer than I should have, and I put myself in a really stressful, risky position because I got to a breaking point, truthfully, where the money ran out, the savings ran out. I was needing to make money quickly, and I hit this rock bottom of sorts. It was stressful, it was heavy, and I was like, I've been doing this for 10 years. How did I get here? Things were going so well. I felt excited about what I was building. I did not expect that shift. And looking back, I'm so grateful for that moment because it got me to move. It got me to take action and to wake the hell up, so to speak, and realize that there are far worse things than failing at something in business. We all do it. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, every book I've read and podcasts I've listened to, I know this in my brain. But doing it, it felt different. It was so much harder to actually cut the ties and be like, okay, that didn't work. Time to move on and try something else. So I believe that everything happens for a reason, and I think that this happened for a reason because it finally got me to take action towards the things that I had been saying for years that I wanted to do. So now we get to shift into the silver lining of what is going right in my business. And number 1 was I finally created a paid digital product. Again, had been talking about this for years, knew I wanted something within the Webflow sphere, wasn't totally sure what that was going to be, if it was going to be this big course, something small, maybe a combination of everything. And putting myself in this risky position where I was stressed out, overwhelmed, didn't know where the money was coming in from. I was like, all right, what is the quickest, easiest thing that I can make right now, that I'm capable of making right now, that feels good, that feels valuable, that I can put out there? So that was what I did. I put together something called the Webflow PLAYBOOK, which basically was a list of all of the resources and tools and plugins and some templates as well that I use within my business as a web designer building in Webflow. And I had that already. I already had lists of everything in Notion of stuff that I use. This was, things that I had trial and errored with clients for years of what email platforms did they like using best? Why would I pick one over another? Course platforms, plugins for Webflow, for Figma, what I actually use in the day-to-day. And I just put all of that together in a Notion doc and I kept it simple. And you know what? I had so much fun putting that together. That just flew out of my brain, and it was easeful and it was fun. And immediately I was like, this was what I needed. This was the direction I needed to go. If you want that, by the way, I'll put a link down in the description. It's only $27. It's incredibly cheap for what it is. And the price is going to be going up soon because I want to add some more video content to it to give even further context to this stuff. But if you buy it now at the lowest price it will ever be, lowest product I will ever sell, you will get access to all those updates even when the price rises. So I would do that now if I was you, but I End plug there. Moving on to number 2, I put my ego aside and I scrapped my services completely and I started over. Now that I realized that like I had that rock bottom, I'm like, I gotta change these services. This isn't working. And I had landed on someone's website. I don't remember how I got there. I'm gonna put this lovely man over here and his site, plug it real quick too, because he gave me this inspiration. And I landed on his site and he was offering a design subscription. And I had heard of other people kind of in the Webflow sphere doing these subscriptions and seemingly being successful with it. I did not really see many female designers doing it that I'm used to kind of seeing online, and typically because they work with other platforms, and so sometimes like what's popular with one isn't necessarily popular with the other, like what Webflow people are doing isn't really what Squarespace people are doing, and etc. But anyway, I landed on the site and I read the copy and it was this immediate feeling of like, oh, that's what I want to put out there. That feels so aligned with the way that I create, with the way that my brain functions. And even just the way in which he wrote it felt so genuine, and like I am collaborating with you, the client, to create a quality product that like is gonna help your business, and we're gonna get it right. Like we're gonna keep working until we get it right. And that's not everyone's vibe, but that is very much my vibe. That is how I have always worked with my clients. I love that collaborative side. I love the flexibility of being able to change course. I love being able to have my hand in different pots. So it's not just branding, it's also the web design, it's also the web build. I'm helping with what software people are using. Sometimes I even pop in some copywriting because I love writing too. Like I am that jack of all trades designer. And while many people will be like, don't do that, you got a niche. That's like, I've always been allergic to niching. I've known that. That's not new information to me. So I read his copy and I just thought like, I want to try this. So I spent the next couple of days just like furiously putting together what my version of that would look like, what would feel true to me. I wrote new copy, I made a new web page, and then I just put it out there. And the next few inquiries I had that came in with clients, I started pitching them this new offer. And so I kind of presented them with the old offers I had, and I was like, or this is something new I'm trying out, and I think it could be a good fit for you. And I was getting yes, and another yes, and another yes, and I was like, okay, this feels drastically different. So I'm still going down that avenue, and I love it. And this process feels so much more me. It feels so much more flexible and free, not only for me, but also for my client. And that was a piece that I was really missing, was that like mutual works for us both, everybody wins energy, and like, let's just create the best thing that we can. But it also didn't lock me into, a scope that was like too clearly defined. Because that is just kind of the nature of startups and new businesses, is you don't always have complete clarity going into a 2 to 3 day sprint of a project of exactly what your website copy is going to be or exactly how it's going to look, because you need that freedom to experiment and see how people respond to it and then pivot and make changes. Like literally exactly what I just did in my own business. I know that my clients benefit from too. So this was creating a service and an offer that really catered to that. But what made it different than a retainer was the ability to pause or cancel at any time, which I also really liked, because as a consumer, that was something that I would look for. It's like, okay, well, sometimes I'm tight on a budget, like I was, in that instance. And having that freedom of being able to take a pause when it made sense and come back, like it all felt right. So number 3 of what is working right in my business is I also found it so much easier to start back up on creating my course, and it feeling so much more natural to do it my way and get clear on what felt true to me and, what's the course that I want to buy? What do I think is missing? How do I learn? And hopefully in doing that, that will also help and resonate with other people. As with anything, it's going to be a little bit of risk, we'll see. But I was someone that learned by doing, and I want this program to model that. I want it to be start to finish, a real world build from design to development, everything in between of what I do with the client. I don't want it to be theory. I want it to feel incredibly practical, like an internship of sorts. And, I'm a Webflow expert now. I say that as like I've taken the certifications to get to put that little title under my name. But I didn't become that and then start working with clients. I started working with clients and then I became the expert. And that is how I learn best. I think that is how a lot of people learn best, is like, you gotta dive in and just make the mistakes and learn by doing. And so that's what I hope this will model. And that feels really like exciting and good for me to create. So that's what I'm working on behind the scenes. So just to wrap that all up, like, the lessons I've learned from all of this, I mean, there've been so many, but to put it into 3 neat little categories. The first is, there is such a thing as too much inspiration. There is such a thing as too much input, and you gotta draw a line somewhere. Like, the learning is great, it holds value, and then you hit a certain point where now it's time to act and to not just be the consumer, but to be the creator again. And number 2 is my point of action creates clarity. And the more that I started to take that action, even before I was ready, even before I felt motivated, the clearer I got on the direction I actually wanted to go, the more information I got about what felt exciting and right for me. And you just gotta take some small baby little steps, and I promise you will get far more valuable information from that than you will get from listening to another podcast episode. And then number 3 is that your excitement is a clue. That feeling I got when I landed on that website, when I read the description for that subscription offer, was so crystal clear to me of like, this is the way I gotta go, green flag, go this way. And that's not by accident. I am someone that believes that things happen for a reason. I believe that if there's something we innately desire and feel excited to do, there's a reason and we are meant to do it and you should go that way. And I think I just kind of forgot that for a little bit in my business. I got a little too stuck on what everyone else was doing and comparing myself, that I forgot about my own excitement and desires and trusting that wholeheartedly. So that's where I'm at. And I hope that there was something that you could take away from this too, and just know that, like, if you're going through it right now, if you're in a rough patch and things aren't clicking, it's okay. Everybody goes through it, even when we're not always portraying it on social media. And I'm in it with you, you know? There's gonna be seasons that go better than others, and that does not mean you should stop. It just maybe means you should try something different and keep going. And I would love to help you with that in any way that I can. So, that being said, that's this video. If you like more of this kind of format, let me know in the comments, and I would love to hear from you if there's stuff that you're struggling with too, or if you relate to this in any way. Let's chat about it. And I promise there will be more videos coming soon. Tutorials as well, not just these, but I wanted to have a little heart-to-heart first. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.